Python is easy to learn, easy to write, and it is like English language. If I want to write any program, I must know how to control the program. If I consider object-oriented programming, what are the two things I want to consider? One is object and another one is class. Hello to all, a warm welcome to my introductory session of the subject Python programming. And this subject is introduced by the Mysuru University for second year B.Ca students, that is 4th Sem B.Ca students. I am your Revati ma'am, faculty from the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, 1st grade college, Mysuru. Anyway, dear student, what is this Python programming? Is it similar to other programming language? Yes, it is similar to other programming language, but it is simple and easy to learn. And what is Python programming language? It is high-level programming language, as well as it's also example for object-oriented programming language, and this programming language is portable and simple and easy to use. For that reason, it's mainly used to develop web applications as well as standalone applications, as well as system scripting, as well as in the field of mathematics. And who developed this programming language? That is none other than Guido van Rossum in the year 1991. Anyway, this Python programming language is simple to learn and easy to learn, and it does not include much syntax. And dear student, in my today's session, I'm going to deal with the agenda, in the sense what are the things we are going to study in this subject, and what are the units we have, along with that question paper pattern as well as internals. So dear student, suppose if I want to study this subject, then what are the things we required? That one I'm going to deal in my prerequisites. And you may ask me the question, if I learn this subject, then what is the outcome of this subject? So we are going to discuss learning outcome. Along with that, the total number of units we have, along with that, internal pattern as well as external exam pattern, and we are going to study about lab, that is nothing but the practicals. Anyway, dear student, if I want to study this subject, then what are the things I required? Anyway, to explain this concept, let me to consider simple C program. Think that I want to print hello message. So what I want to do? I want to print hello. So what are the things I required? I'll write hello. If I write this much, is it enough in my C program? No. What I want header files, because here I am using printf statement. So here I am using printf statement. Where this printf present? That is present in my header file called #include stdio.h. Okay, fine. Is it enough? No. Then I want to include the main function. I want to include the main function, and I'm going to write this statement within the flower bracket. And if I see this one, how many lines I have? See here, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So I have 5 lines. And if I replace this program to Python, see how I'm going to write. I'm going to write print hello. How many lines? I have only one line. See how many lines? Only one line. See the difference. So Python is easy to learn, easy to write, and it is like English language. So it's example for high level programming language, and it's also example for object-oriented programming. And if I consider object-oriented programming, what are the programming language we have? We have C++, Java, Python, .NET, etc. So Python is also comes under object-oriented programming language. And if I want to study this subject, what I required? I does not require anything because I'm going to study from the scratch. So I does not require C programming or C++ or Java or .NET. So here I'm going to start from the scratch. So I does not require any additional prerequisites. So I'm going to start from the scratch. Now, the question arises, if I study this subject, then what I'm going to learn and what is the benefit I'm going to get? So dear student, if I study this subject thoroughly and if I become master in this subject, then what are the profit or what are the benefit I'm going to gain here? That is, here we start from basic concepts of Python programming, in the sense how to write simple Python program. To write simple Python program, what are the basic elements we required? All those things we are going to study in our basic concepts like variables, identifiers, operators, data types, etc. And it demonstrates the efficiency in the handling of loops. So dear student, if I want to write any program, I must know how to control the program. I must include controlling elements as well as looping elements. And here we are going to study looping constructs like while loop, do while loop, for loop. Along with that, we are going to study the decision making statements like if else, nested if else, and so on. And it allows the user to identify how to create a method and how to manipulate lists, tuples as well as dictionaries. So dear student, why Python is entirely different from other programming language? Because Python supports lists, tuples as well as dictionaries, and discovers the commonly used operations like file handling. So dear student, think that I just want to create a file and I want to manage that file. Like see, in our Python, we can able to create a file and we can able to perform different kinds of operations on that file. And interprets the concept of object-oriented programming as used in Python. As I discussed, Python is example for object-oriented programming. If I consider object-oriented programming, what are the two things I want to consider? One is object and another one is class. Here, if I consider class as a blueprint, then objects are the instance of the class. For example, if I consider vehicles are my class, then the different kinds of vehicles falls under an object. So here we are going to study how to create a class, how to create an object, how to invoke the methods. All those things we are going to study. At the same time, we can able to develop emerging applications. Emerging in the sense what? Recent trend application. So By using Python, we can able to develop the applications with respect to mathematics, or we can able to create and develop system scripting as well as Windows application. So these are the learning outcome of this subject. Okay, fine. If I consider the units, how many units we have in the subject? That is only 3 units. And if I consider these 3 units, each unit includes minimum 3 to 4 chapters. See here, unit 1, it includes first chapter, second chapter, third chapter, fourth chapter, and fifth chapter. How many chapters? 5 chapters. And in my first chapter, I'm going to deal with only introduction about Python programming. In the sense what? Applications, features, how to install Python, how to use the Python. And if I consider second unit, I'm going to discuss only about Python basics. There's nothing but the basic concepts of Python. In the sense what? If I want to write any Python program, what are the things I required? Here I required identifiers, keywords, statements, data types. Okay, at the same time, I must have console input and console output. So in my Python basic concept, I'm going to learn if I want to write any program, then I must have the small basic units. And how I'm going to form this small basic units, I'm going to discuss and I'm going to learn in my Python basic. Okay, fine. And if I consider third chapter, see here, Python control flow. If I write Python program, then how I'm going to control the flow of the program. So I'm going to discuss and I'm going to learn here, that is decision making as well as iteration. And if I consider decision making, what are the things I'm going to study? That is if loop, if else, and nested if, and so on. And if I consider iteration, what are the things I'm going to study? That is while loop, do while loop, and for loop. Along with that, if I consider fourth chapter, what are the things I'm going to deal here? That is nothing but the exception handling. So what is exception? Exception is nothing but the errors. If I write any program and if that program generates any error, that error must be handled carefully. For that reason, I'm going to have exception handling. Here, exception is nothing but error handling. And what kind of errors and how we are going to handle the errors and what are the keywords we have, all those things we are going to study under exception handling. So here we have try, expect, as well as finally keywords. And the another one, Python functions. So dear student, we are familiar with function. So what is function? Functions are nothing but a set of or group of statements used to perform specific task. Okay, fine. So we learned the different types of functions in our C program. Same concept, but the language is different. So here, how we are going to create a function, how to call a function, how to write function body, how to write function prototype, all those things we are going to study in our fifth chapter. So these are the certain chapter falls under unit 1. Okay, fine. If I consider unit 2, let's see how many chapters we have here. Here, see, we have strings, we have list, we have dictionaries, and we have tuples and sets. Okay, fine. What a string? String is nothing but the collection of character or group of character. And in Python, we have string concept. In that, we are going to study how to create a string, how to manage a string, all the things we are going to study under chapter 1. And if I consider list, so what is list? It is nothing but the collection of elements. Okay, and how we are going to create a list, what are the operations we can able to perform on the list, we are going to study in our second chapter. And if I consider dictionary, how we can able to create a dictionary, what are the operations we can perform on the dictionary, all those things we are going to study under our third chapter. And if I consider fourth chapter, here we are going to study what is triples, what is set. See, these are the mathematical concepts, right? So, by using Python, we can able to develop the applications. So, see here, these are the mathematical concept. Creating tuples, operations, in the sense what are the different kinds of operations I can able to perform on the tuples, built-in functions on tuples, tuple methods, creating a set, operations on the set, all those things we are going to study in our fourth chapter. And if I consider fifth chapter, see, I'm going to study about file handling. Anyway, we had this concept in our C program, how to create a file, how to handle a file, and what are the different kinds of operations I can able to perform on file. So same thing we are going to study in our Python programming. Now, if I consider Unit 3, see, as I discussed, Python is example for object-oriented programming language. So, what is my first chapter? That is object-oriented concept. And graphical user interface, SQL, that is SQLite, that is Python, SQLite, data analysis, as well as data visualization. Okay, fine. If I consider object-oriented concept, what are the things we are going to learn? That is how to create an object. If I want to create an object, what I required? I required class. So, we are going to study how to create a class and how to create the object, how to use the methods, all those things we are going to study in our first chapter of third unit. Along with that, we are going to study the concepts like inheritance. That's nothing but the reusability. Where we learned reusability in our Java or in our C++ language. Okay, fine. Then data encapsulation, polymorphism, etc. So these are the certain topic comes under object-oriented programming concept. And if I consider second chapter, what are the things I'm going to learn? That is graphical user interface. Suppose if I want to create attractive forms, or if I want to create attractive program, then I must have the graphical user interface. Okay, so here I'm going to study how to develop and how to design attractive applications in my graphical user interface. Okay, fine. Then, if I want to manage the database, we have SQL or we have DB2. Okay, fine. But if I consider Python, in Python, I'm going to have the SQLite. So here we are going to study how to create a table, how to insert the value, how to connect the database. All those things we are going to study in my third chapter. Okay, fine. If I consider fourth chapter, I'm going to analyze the data. How I can able to analyze the data and what kind of technique I'm going to use, all those things I'm going to get in my fourth chapter, that is data analysis. And how I'm going to view the data. Is it possible to view the data in graphical way or in graphical method? All those things I'm going to learn in my data visualization. Data can be represented in the forms of chart, and how I'm going to represent the data in the form of chart and how I'm going to visualize that chart, all those things I'm going to learn in my fifth chapter. Okay, these are the 5 chapters comes under unit 3. So how many units? Only 3 units. But if I consider chapters, how many chapters? It is 15 chapters. And to clear the subject, it is very easy. You have to study any 2 unit. Either first one and second one, or first and third, or second and third. It's left to you. The student, one who want to clear the subject, just focus any 2 units, and one who want to score good marks, they must focus and concentrate all 3 units. Okay, fine. If I consider internals. Okay, fine. How many internals? Only 2 internals. And if I write first internals, and for how many marks I'm going to write? Only for 30. And here also only for 30. So how many internals? I have 2 internals. And how I'm going to finalize the marks? That is the internals which got more marks. That is your final marks. Okay, fine. And if I consider 30 marks, that is divided into part A and part B. Part B. Okay, fine. In part A, I'm going to get 10 mark question. Okay. So, how many question? 3 question. Out of 3, 2. 2 into 10, it is 20. Okay, fine. If I consider part B, 5 mark, 3 question. Out of 3, 2. 2 into 5, it is 10. 20 plus 10, it is 30. Okay, fine. So, this is all about your internals. And if I consider external exam. So, dear student, this paper is only for 60 marks. Theory paper, 60 marks plus practicals, 25. And in practicals, we have part A and part B. Part A, how many programs? 11 programs. And part B, how many programs? 11 programs. And if I consider your practical examination, you're going to get 1 question from part A and 1 question from part B. So you have to concentrate both the parts. In the sense, you have to concentrate full practicals. So you have to study all 22 programs. And if I consider theory, it's only for 60 marks and question paper is divided into part A and part B. Okay, fine. If I consider part A, from each unit, I'm going to get 15 marks. So you think that it is unit 1 and 2. So this is for 15 marks and this is for 15 marks. So I have OR option. I can able to answer first main or second main. Okay. And this 15 marks is further divided into 2 subparts. That is 7 plus 8 or 10 plus 5. So you have to answer any one full question. And if I consider 3 units, I'm going to get 3 15-mark question. 3 into 15, it is 45. And if I consider part B also, we have 5 questions. Out of 5, you need to answer only 3. 3 into 5, it is 15. Okay, fine. Now, the question arises, what is the weightage of each unit? So, each unit carries 20 marks. So, unit 1, 20, unit 2, 20 and unit 3 is also carries 20 marks. For that reason, I told you to study any 2 unit to clear the subject. And if you want to master in the subject, then you have to study all 3 units. Okay, fine. Now, dear student, which Bible want to refer? So, dear student, if you want to become master in this subject, then you have to refer the textbook, that is Think Python, How to Think Like a Computer Scientist by Alan Downey. So this textbook you have to refer to become a master in this subject. Anyway, dear student, I hope in this session you got little idea about Python programming as well as the syllabus allotted by the university. Anyway, dear student, let's meet in the concept class. Until that, keep watching and keep learning. Thank you.